And thank you so much, Mr. Bhatt, for joining in today on ET Now. Let's talk about your top line growth, and across segments that has certainly rebounded. Margins for jewelry as though has come in lower. Are all the events like sluggish consumer sentiment, the lower industry growth, caused a sluggish that caused a sluggish sales in Q1? Is that all now behind?
Yeah, it is certainly behind us. We are seeing very good growth rates in all our businesses. The festival season has turned out to be good news. And we had expected this because our consumer sentiment study had indicated that in jewelry, customers were waiting to splurge, and that has turned out to be right. Healthy growth. The margin in jewelry was affected by various reasons, one of them being accounting, which is to do with the with a timing difference for the valuation of the inventory. But that is just a temporary effect. If you take a 6-month, 12-month view, there is no significant impact. In fact, margins in jewelry have been steadily growing. Watches, yes, good growth. Volume growth has been higher than value growth, but value growth has also been very, very healthy. Brand Titan has done extremely well. The top of the pops in terms of growth, but all brands have been growing.
General, Mr. Bhatt, if you have to give your own assessment of consumer demand, how would you like to characterize it? Are you bullish, confident, or cautiously optimistic? Because we are getting different feelers perhaps from different segments now. Auto companies are telling us a different story. Two-wheeler companies are telling us a different story. FMCG companies are telling us a different story. So what is your understanding of your customer? Is he confident, or there is going to be sluggishness as the year unfolds?
It is a very good point of debate. I must admit that we can't be bullish, optimistic and bullish. We have to be cautious. The reason being the other happenings around. But if I were to take only our segments, if you were to take all three, watches, jewelry, eyewear, in a way, the rest of the competition, a significant part of the rest of the competition being unorganized, we certainly see benefits with the formalization of the economy, disproportionately in our favor in a way than to the rest. So there is perhaps an element of market share gain as well, apart from growth. Now, having said that, we do believe that the auto sector in a way is a bellwether for consumer demand in this country, certainly consumer durables, and that is a cause for worry. As of now, as far as Titan company is concerned, we have not seen any significant impact on the negative side. In fact, the festival season sales have been good. Diwali was exceptionally good for jewelry, as expected. And maybe the high 20s growth rates that we've seen in jewelry is where the question mark could be. But jewelry is a very different sector as in the consumer's mind compared to auto or FMCG. There's some intrinsic desire, and there's a strong wedding season also coming up shortly. So we do see good growth.
Nothing to hear. Do you think you will be able to defend margins in lieu of the demand environment and cost rationalization? What is the outlook that you can offer to investors for margin maintenance?
We don't provide any outlook, but just to, we had in a way missed out in Q1 on the growth for jewelry particularly, but we made up a significant part of that in Q2. And our targeted growth rates, we had targeted a 25% growth rate, if you remember, in jewelry for the year. We should be able to achieve in Q3 and Q4, but overall we may be less than the 25%, but that's not a significant event because margin growth has been steady thanks to both, a very good growth in studded jewelry, not perhaps in this quarter, but general trend of growth in studded jewelry, as well as an improvement in margin even in plain gold, thanks to our effort in the wedding segment, where the larger ticket size and the higher price points fetch us better margins. And of course, watch business doing well, is a high margin business. So overall, the company should benefit from all this.
Two very basic, data points which I guess we would like to address for our viewers and your shareholders is that what is your outlook on the growth of the total jewelry market? Is it growing, and at what rate it is growing? And what is your market share currently, and at what rate do you think your market share will be able to grow?
Well, I must tell you that the second part of the question is easier to answer than the first part. At what rate it is growing, it is extremely difficult to assess, primarily because in the first quarter there was a decline for the rest of the industry, whereas we did grow, and we have grown quite substantially in Q2. The mixed impact, because this is unorganized, the impact is very difficult. The size of the market to assess is very difficult. But if you were to take the long-term impact of demonetization and formalization, which is GST and so on, there is some hesitation on the part of consumers to participate in the jewelry market itself because of the conditions of KYC and cash transactions and so on. That has had a temporary effect, and how long? Because fundamentally, the formal players, especially the organized players like us, have benefited from the formalization. That will lead to market share gain definitely, and we had planned for a market share gain through strategic investments in wedding, in diamond jewelry, and overall in investing in the brand. However, the size of the market, whether it will compress or increase, there is no indication of any significant drop. It is only hesitation because of the change in the transaction requirement. If I were to say cash, the need for parking your cash, certainly the parking of cash in jewelry, that has reduced, but the desire for acquiring gold jewelry and diamond jewelry amongst women, that has not declined, and therefore the aspirational nature of that category and the aspirational nature of our brands is what is driving growth for us.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend, but let's talk about the other segments, and particularly for watches and eyewear, you haven't particularly diversified into other segments. Is this a conscious decision that you've taken?
No, not like that. There is the company is constantly exploring new product categories. They have not in scale terms become as big as watches or jewelry. Eyewear was the last significant one, but even that has not grown to the size of watches. However, we have, we are into fragrances, we have accessories, we have explored the women's ethnic wear segment through silk saris, the brand Tanera. All these are efforts at, I don't call it so much diversification as extending Titan's competencies to unorganized sectors, and by itself establishing a business. The scale of those in terms of industry size itself is very different compared to a jewelry, which is very, very large, or watches, which is about 6,500 to 7,000 crores. They are all of very different sizes, but our competence in design, retailing, branding, these are the ones which we are putting to use as we enter opportunities in the unorganized sector.
Can you give me a broad sense of where your ad spends are headed? You've increased them. Will there be a conscious uptick? Because that's one variable factor which consumer companies and consumer durable companies have. You can increase or decrease your ad spend depending on how you feel and how you view things.
We have no desire to reduce our ad spend. We increased our ad spend in jewelry primarily because that was it was as per plan, and we had a reduced spend in Q1. It is not that all of the so-called saving of Q1 was spent in Q2, but Q3, for example, is a very significant quarter in terms of advertising for all the businesses. So you'll see a significant increase. There is no desire, there is no plan to cut ad spends as of now because our position is quite strong.
All right, we'll let you go on that note. Thanks much for taking time out and joining in, giving us a heads up on how your individual businesses have fared.
Happy Diwali to all of you, though belated.
Oh yes, and wishing you and your team the very same. So looking forward to an optimistic wedding season. That's the take coming in from Titan. They've spoken about their individual segments as well. The watch business is doing well, and they've seen strong growth in the jewelry business as well. Enough levers in place that will sustain this growth. What's Titan up to? 2.8%.